Welcome to Franklin, Pennsylvania. Located at the confluence of French Creek and the Allegheny River, this town is an area rich in history and local pride. Join us as residents show and tell everything that makes their community a great hometown.
My name is Carol E. Mitchner, and I would like to tell you a little bit about the historical markers and the monuments we have in Franklin that record our fabulous history. The first markers go back to the War for Empire, or the French and Indian War. When the French laid claim to this area, the British promptly sent young militiaman George Washington here to tell them to leave. We can actually lay claim to Washington sleeping here because he camped for a couple days at the banks of French Creek in cold December of 1753. He didn't persuade the French to leave. They went ahead and built Fort Machault, which stood as a supply depot during the war until 1759 when they left. The British promptly moved in and built Fort Venango. And the markers are here at what was now 8th Street, put up by the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission. There are 6 other markers that PHMC also erected here in Franklin. The third one came in for Fort Franklin, which was built in 1787 to protect the settlers from Indian attacks. Actually, it was used several times by people that had settled in Meadville and also in the farmlands of Crawford County who came down when they were warned of an attack. Also at the same area where Fort Franklin marker is, there's a small park and there's a marker for Johnny Appleseed. He came here in 1797, bought property under his real name, John Chapman, and started orchards here before he headed west. The next marker that we recognize from the PHMC is the Venango County marker, which is in front of the courthouse. And the courthouse is really the centerpiece of downtown Franklin, built by the county, but actually the parks are owned by the city. When Andrew Ellicott laid out Franklin, he fortunately made places for common ground, and those are the city parks we know today. The courthouse was built in 1868 and 69. It was built in back of a courthouse that was built in 1840. And we thought the people that lived here at that time thought the courthouse would last for years. But once the oil boom started in northern Venango County, it was much too small, so they had to build a new courthouse. The next markers that were built were to attribute to the oil industry. And if you go down to the edge of South Park, there's a marker for George Bissell, who was in from the beginning for buying the land that ended up to have Drake Well on it. And across the street from that, there is a brick building, and it was the home office for the Galena Signal Oil Company. The Galena Company was started in the 1860s, but by the end of that decade, it was lubricating 95% of all the railroads in North America, started by Charles Miller and Joseph Sibley. Coinciding with the oil boom, though, was also the Civil War. And while the oil industry is given credit for helping the North keep up its balance of trade, it also made a lot of people wealthy that lived here, and also the newcomers that came here. When a sanitary fair was held in Pittsburgh, they were seeking to give away a large marble shaft from the county that gave the most money towards this fair that was to provide funds for wounded soldiers. Venango County was the winner of that. So we have a Civil War monument in our South Park with that shaft that was put up and dedicated in September 1866. Engraved on it were the names of 400 Venango County people who were killed during the Civil War. And it was refurbished and rededicated last year thanks to Franklin Preservation Association. The markers give a brief look at the history of the area, and Franklin has always been proud of its unique history. Our city flag has recognized the fact that there were 3 flags here, and the Pennsylvania Historical Society has recognized this with the addition of all these markers to show that we do have a unique history. And it started with the French and Indian War, and it's still going on, really.
Hi, I'm Steve Mason. I'm a 4th-generation Franklinite, and because I was born and raised here, I would feel very comfortable in telling you about the wealth that created this beautiful, phenomenal community. 2 of the prominent men back in the 1800s, around 1840-ish or so, migrated or immigrated from New York State to Franklin. One of them was Joseph Sibley, the other was Charles Miller, who was a French immigrant from Alsace. And he fled to the United States with his family at that time because of persecution, religious persecution. He was a Huguenot. Charles Miller married one into the Sibley family, one of the daughters, and they were here in Franklin. I believe they had a dry goods store. And from that, because of what was happening in Titusville with the discovery of oil in 1859, Sibley got involved in chemistry, which was prone to a lot of men of that era playing around, and created a formula that made oil oily, because during that period of time, in the winter in particular, trains couldn't run because the oil would clog up. So from that little laboratory experiment came this formula that Sibley and Miller had a patent on, and eventually as Standard Oil grew, Rockefeller's fame, they were interested, of course, in this formula that made oil much more useful across the board. So Rockefeller also had made trips to Franklin and talked with both Sibley and Miller, and from that point, Standard Oil had the rights, I don't know the legal details, but in the big picture thing, Miller held on to his share. Sibley eventually sold out, and Charles Miller, made more and more and more money. One of the aspects of the new wealth that was pouring into this part of the country, and also, of course, America, what did they do? Well, the children of this generation that were being sent off to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Ivy League schools, when they would come back on summer vacations or on breaks, they had nowhere to hang out. So they got together and created a club. And it ended up, they called it the nursery, because supposedly it was to be a club for these young men to be able to socialize, but also was to nurture personal characteristics and principles and values that they all basically shared and had, hence the nursery. It eventually became the Franklin Club. And in fact, anecdotally, when they opened up the Franklin Club, eventually there were over 400 guests at that point in time, I believe in the late 1880s. So you can imagine, out of Franklin, Pennsylvania, which at that time I believe had maybe 4,000 to 6,000 people, and of course millionaires, if not more, with all the carriages, et cetera, that were going to this gala opening for the Franklin Club. It was rather a spectacular event. But again, at that point in time in American history, there was just this wealth, this enormous amount of wealth. A lot of Miller's wealth was spent, of course, on all of the excesses of life, private railroad cars. He had X number of carriages, stables for his horses. There were numerous families in town that had their own private railroad car. In fact, there are several here, one in particular on Elk and 14th Street. You can see the railroad spur from the railroad tracks going into their backyard where they held onto their railroad car. And as the train was taking off from Franklin to go to Corey or Meadville to connect to Chicago or New York, the private car was attached. Miller also would take his car, put it on a boat, and take it to Europe with him. Another anecdotal story, when Miller's daughter got married, he accompanied them on their honeymoon in his private railroad car. And also anecdotally too, one of the things Miller would do in Florida, he would bring back fresh fruits from Florida and bring them here into Franklin and bring them out and put them in the park for the public to take advantage of. So his generosity, from those little gestures to building the Baptist church, where he also preached. So his congregation was extremely large, and people at that point in time, wealth begat wealth, would come to Franklin to hear Charles Miller sermonize and preach. Again, rubbing elbows with each other and congratulating each other on their successes and wealth.
My name is Daniel, and you can't tell the story about Franklin without telling the story of Miller Park. Here in Franklin, it was the final display of wealth brought on by the oil industry and the oil boom. And it all started with General Miller, and I'm sure by now you've heard enough about General Miller and Sibley to know that they were one of the early movers and shakers of Franklin. Miller himself owned oil companies, railroad lines, luxury hotel in Franklin. He also lived in Franklin. With all this industry, it did take a toll on the environment and the cities around the area. You had major deforestation, which led to erosion, runoff, and for the cities in the area, we didn't have the roads that we have now, so it was a very muddy, dirty, filthy mess. As I said, Miller lived downtown. He had his mansion there, and he decided enough was enough. He purchased 17 acres on Galena Hill, which is adjacent to and overlooks the city of Franklin. And there he sought out and visualized his plan of a residential park. And what that means is that he borrowed a lot of principles from Frederick Law Olmsted, who was the landscape architect of Central Park. And the plan was not to use the grid of the city, but rather to build the roads that curved and meandered along the natural contours of the hillside. He hired Charles Nassau Lowry, also a prominent landscape architect, to enhance his park. And what Lowry did, he designed and laid out brick sidewalks, stone retaining walls, he designed a beautiful stoned arch bridge. And then, because it was located on a hillside, there was a lot of water runoff. So he beautifully managed that with streams, fountains, waterfalls, koi ponds, a small lake with 2 little islands. He designed an animal park, tennis courts built into the side of the hillside, a beautiful rose garden. All of this was accessible to the public and open to the public. But to get the coveted Miller Park address, you had to have the consent of General Miller, and you had to be a friend, a family member, or a business associate. And today, about 12 homes and mansions exist. And when they were first built, there was a deed restriction that you couldn't build a garage or an outbuilding, and General Miller had provided a central location where your automobiles and your carriages and your drivers were stored and resided at. So where is Miller Park today? Miller Park was once forgotten, but now there are homeowners who are fixing up the homes, and there's great interest in restoring the park and bringing back all the landscape features and the hardscapes, and hopefully one day that, hopefully it'll be beautiful again.
Hi, I'm Rich Tigert. I'm the Director of Life Ministries, and I'm going to be sharing with you some information about the River Ridge Estate. We're located here just between Franklin and Oil City. Technically, it's a Franklin address, but a lot of people see it as they drive along Route 8 from the highway there. As you look up on the hillside, you see a big stone mansion overlooking the river valley. The house comprises of nearly 30,000 square feet. It has 3 connecting wings to a main center section of the building here. It overlooks the Allegheny River. The stone from which it was built was quarried right here on the property, and it must have been quite an operation to put it together. Well, this estate was built by an individual named Joe Sibley. He was born in Friendship, New York, came to Franklin when his parents passed away when he was a teenager, and he came to live with his brother-in-law, Charles Miller. The estate here was put together in the early 1900s. Actually, Joe's wife passed away in 1911, and it was right around that time that he began to put this estate together, purchasing several properties. Construction here on the main house began in 1913, the spring of 1913. It was quite an operation. There was about 75 stonemasons that did the main construction, and they began early in the spring of that year. One of the phenomenal aspects of this project was that he moved in before Christmas of that year, and it was kind of a event where he married his second wife at that time, and they moved in and actually spent their honeymoon here in the mansion. Mr. Sibley lived here at the estate for 13 years. He passed away right here at the home in 1926. His younger daughter came and lived here, I think, around 1917, and she stayed here until her death in 1944. The older daughter was kind of the operator of the estate from that point on, and she ran the estate till 1949, at which time they decided to put it up for sale. Now, the estate at that point was sold to a group called the White Fathers of Africa, which was a missionary society. They used it as a training center, a seminary for training missionaries that were being sent to Africa. Now, the White Fathers had it for roughly 20 years and had it in operation. They did quite a few changes to the facility during that time in the estate. They actually sold off much of the acreage. Originally, there was well over 1,000 acres as part of the estate, and they sold off about 900 acres to Hammermill Paper Company. The White Fathers then ceased operations, I think, around 1968. And Life Ministries purchased it in 1969 under the direction of my father, Earl Tigert, at that time. We have things that go on here almost every weekend of the year. A lot of people marvel that we're open year-round when they drive in a 2-mile dirt road to get here. But we, have our own snowplow. The township does a great job of keeping things open for us as well. During the summer months, June through the end of October, We're almost busy on a daily basis. A lot of times we're having a group leave early in the morning and another one come in later that afternoon. And so we keep things going pretty steady here, particularly during the warmer months of the year. Due to our schedule, we have activities here on a pretty consistent, regular basis, and we're not able to be open to the public, but we do have tours that we work with the Historical Society and the Venango County Museum as well. And if somebody's interested in getting a little better look at things, they are more than welcome to contact these two organizations, because we do work with them on an annual basis to do tours for the public.
Hi, I'm Marley Manning. I'm the Executive Director of the Venango County Historical Society, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we are. We were originally organized in 1957, but we weren't granted a charter until 1959. We bounced around from location to location. We settled for quite a while in the library, but in 1981 we purchased the home on the corner of South Park and Elk Street, and that was our home until very recently, when we moved one house over to the Egbert Mullins Coos house, and this is now our new home. Our research library is one of our most popular aspects of the Historical Society, and it varies year to year, week to week actually, but we probably see somewhere between 200 and 300 people who either stop by or contact us via email or phone to do research for them. Our goals as we move forward are to finish the Egbert Mullins Coos house. We just recently finished moving all of our objects, so we're still in the process of getting everything organized and know where everything is, and to get all of the rooms up and open to the public. To the residents and the tourists that come to this area, the Historical Society is just a place to connect. You know, it's where people get an on-the-ground experience. They don't have to go to every little stop. They can come here and get that broad history and then go out with a little bit of knowledge.
Hello, I'm Mother Elizabeth Yale, and I am the priest at St. John's Episcopal Church, and I'm going to tell you about the story of our Tiffany windows. Well, the church was built in the 1860s. It was a stone church. They had originally had a brick church on the property, and the stone church was getting renovations to its organ. And some of the organ workers left a candle in the bellows room when they went for lunch one day, and unfortunately the bellows room caught on fire and the church burnt down, and destroyed some of the parish hall that they had just built next door. And that happened in 1900. And so they first restored the parish hall, and then they worked on rebuilding the church completely. And that's when they decided to do donations in memory of people from the congregation in Tiffany windows. Someone in the congregation had connections with the Louis Tiffany studio in New York, because at that time there was a lot of oil money, and so people had the money to buy Tiffany windows, which we don't quite have that kind of money today, but it was interesting because the church records show that each of the windows was bought from somewhere between $2,000 to $8,000. So in the 80s, the windows were appraised and to be about $16.5 million. And then in the 1990s, the church decided to restore the windows, and that cost about $450,000. And they did a huge amount of good work to the windows, and they're gorgeous. And we have an alarm system to make sure that no one tries to steal them, because we want to keep them and preserve them. We're only We're one of only 8 churches in the country with a full set of Tiffany windows. The Tiffany windows started to be installed in 1901 when they were rebuilding the church, and the first windows to be installed were the figure of Jesus in the middle of the front of the church, followed by the 4 gospel writers, and the rose window. So when the church was dedicated in 1904, the only Tiffany windows in the church were the 5 up front and the rose window in the back. Over then the next few years, they installed all the side triptychs, which is a set of 3. They did that up until 1917, which is our last window that was installed 100 years ago. The windows were put into frames at the studio and then installed into the holes in the church that had been set for them. Before the windows were installed, they just had cathedral glass there so that the building was enclosed and could be used throughout the year. Tiffany was really interested in how to use color and texture in his glass, and so he came up with a technique called Favril glass, and that's shown in our windows. Each window has between 4 and 7 layers, and you can tell the layers from looking at the windows closely. And it's interesting because during different seasons or different times of day, the colors in the windows change, and it looks like clouds are moving, or it looks like people's expressions change, and some of the gospel authors seem to blush during the day. And it's amazing to see that transformation. The rose window, at a certain time in the spring near the equinox, the jewels sort of burst. And so you can walk in there in the morning and it's just like this golden array of the rose window, and it's quite gorgeous. We offer tours by appointment for $5 a person, and they last about an hour. We have dedicated docents who do the tours and know a whole lot more about the windows and can tell you all about how they were made and to allow you to see in depth each window. We have about 400 to 500 people that come for dedicated tours each year, and we have lots of people who just come in to visit. We're open almost every day of the week for people just to come and look at the windows or to pray in the church.
Hi, I'm Adam Cook, and I'm here to talk about the Franklin YMCA. The Franklin YMCA was started in 1890 in Franklin, Pennsylvania, and it was on the Snook Block. It had 250 members, and they occupied the 3rd floor of that building. And there was rooms in there mainly for people to come and spiritually connect with one another. They also had rooms for people to come and stay. It was geared for people 16 and older that had good morale and moral compasses, so they kind of tested people for that. But they fastly outgrew that. In 1896, they moved into the 13th Street location, and they had about 800 members. And they had a gymnasium and a pool, and it became more of a community center, a community place for people to come and hang out. And they actually started to allow women to attend from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. for $1 more a day. So it was $5 for a membership at the time, and if you wanted to take advantage of that, it was $6 for an annual membership at the Franklin YMCA. So the mission of the Franklin YMCA is to put Christian principles into practice through programs that build a healthy spirit, mind, and body for all. And when the Y first started, again, it was a place for people to come together more on a spiritual level. And now today it's much more than that. People come together that have financial hardships. They come together just for guidance. They come there for physical workouts. Really, the focus areas are youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility. So today it's encompassing much more than what the initial mission of the YMCA was. So the YMCA today has 3,800 members. About a fourth of those are on financial assistance, so a fourth of those we offer membership subsidies to, or program subsidies. We also offer free swim lessons for kids that need to learn how to swim. We have youth sports, we have membership, we have health and wellness, a fitness center, a group exercise studio. We have an aquatics department with swimming pools and kids learn for swim team. We also have a child care department, so we provide full service child care from 6 weeks up through school age. So the YMCA today is really a community center. I mean, our whole goal is to be affordable, to be a place that nobody judges you, to be a place that you can come into and be completely comfortable with who you are, but also help you achieve a better you. So if you come in today, you'll see kids running all around the building. You'll see people in the fitness center actively working out to live a healthier lifestyle. You'll see staff that's caring and honest and responsible and respecting and looking around to help any way they can to get you to your goals and your vision. You really just see the community as a whole. It's a pillar in the community. I view it as a community center. So we're kind of the center of the community, but also a center for people to come and participate. So last year, in 2016, the Franklin YMCA celebrated their 125th anniversary. It was a big deal. There's so much pride in the community. We had an event at the Y where people could come and share stories of the Y when they were there. And they brought in pictures, they brought in stories. There was pictures clear back from people playing basketball in the 1800s and 1900s. So the apparel was a little different than what we wear today. But it was really cool to watch these people connect and share stories, and generational. From, my dad did this at the Y to my grandson's doing this at the Y. And just to hear those stories was just so moving. So we had that, and then we had a Day of Bella Cacinas where we you always want to have food to get people to come. So we had a food party where people came and participated and ate and just, again, shared their times at the Y, talking about the Y today versus the Y 125 years ago and how it's made an impact in the community. So we're proud to have served this community for 125 years. When you look at the community of Franklin, it's one of the strongholds of Franklin is that everybody cares for everybody else. It's the small town feel. And it's so cool to go everywhere and they have a connection to the Y. Whether they're a donor, a volunteer, a member, a program participant, they've had an impact, they've had a legacy with our Y. And so we love to hear the stories, we love to hear how people have come together, but in more meaningful ways, they've impacted the Y, and we think we've impacted them. So it's one of those things where we view it as service, and we're proud to be a partner of that.
Hi, I'm Bill Weller. I'm with the Allegheny Valley Trails Association, and today we're going to talk about the bike trail. The Allegheny Valley Trails Association was first thought of in 1990 by two college professors from Clarion College, Jim Holden and David Howes, and that thought has turned into 52 miles of trail today. There's two trails. It's the Allegheny River Trail, which starts in the city of Franklin and goes to Emlenton. The Sandy Creek Trail goes from Fisherman's Cove east and west to the village of Van. In 1991, they wrote a grant, and I believe it was nicknamed Iced Tea, and I don't remember what those letters stand for, but that purchased us 14 miles of railroad grade and was supposed to pave that 14 miles. Because of how that grant came about, it was so many years later that grant only paid for the property. That's how we started. The trail system, when it was started, was completely a volunteer organization. Today that organization is 13 board members and probably 50 to 75 volunteers that just show up and do the work. The mowing is done by volunteers. Once a year with the National Cleanup Day, we have volunteers that pick up trash along the entire trail. Any maintenance, ditches work, landslides is usually done by volunteers unless we need heavy equipment. A lot of our maintenance is funded by, we offer memberships, we offer individual, family, benefactor. We also have a program for business partners, which is a 10-year commitment from a business. Along the trail, mostly on the Allegheny River Trail, about a mile south of Franklin is an oil well that was financed by John Wilkes Booth. A little further down is the Belmar Train Bridge, which is on the Sandy Creek Trail. That bridge spans about 1,360 feet long across the Allegheny River. A little known thing a little further down is the old steam engines. When they ran out of water, they had to be refilled with water. There is an old stone cistern that sits along the trail that if you go up in the woods, it's still there. After that, you come to the village of Brandon. After Brandon, you come to the first tunnel, which is the Kennerdell Tunnel, which is about 3,300 feet long. That tunnel at the south end has a dog leg, so when you enter the tunnel, you must have a light, and there is no light at the end of the tunnel. After the Kenterdale Tunnel is the village of St. George, which is a little community along the river. After that is the Rockland Station Tunnel, which is a little shorter. It's about 2,800 feet long. And again, it has a dog leg at the south end, so there is no light at the end of the tunnel. And once you go through that tunnel, you're about 6 miles from Embleton. About the 8-mile mark on the trail is, well, one thing is Indian God Rock, which is a National Historic Place, but there's also across the river is an eagle's nest. So often we see bald eagles. We had an impact study done in 2013. It was not only on our trail, but it was on the entire length of trails in Venango County. We had counters set up in Titusville, Oil City, Franklin, and Embleton. That summer we had approximately 158,000 users of the trail, which through their formulas with DCNR came out to about $7 million they brought into the area that summer.
Hello, my name is Jeff Brunton. I'm here to talk to you today about the outdoor opportunities in Franklin, Pennsylvania. Franklin, Pennsylvania is in a unique position because we are located at the confluence of French Creek and the Allegheny River. We have approximately 28 miles of French Creek that flows into the river, and then we have another 32 miles of the Allegheny River that we in Franklin claim to have access to. Along with that, we also have 72 miles of bicycle trail that runs from Titusville all the way down to Embleton, with the main trailhead being in Franklin. So with the canoeing and kayaking and the bicycling and the hiking that we have in the area, we feel that we have many opportunities for the outdoor enthusiast to come to Franklin and enjoy just about anything that they may desire. Growing up in Franklin, it was back in the industrial age where we might have not had the cleanest waterways in the area. There was the fishing wasn't all that good, and you very, very rarely saw any kind of bald eagle. I had moved away after graduating from college, and upon my return, I soon realized that the fishing was changed, and it was lots of big fish, healthy fish, and the bald eagle population was crazy busy. There was bald eagles everywhere, and they've just continued to return to our area, and that's a tribute to the cleanliness of our waterways. When I moved back to Franklin in 2004, the bicycle business was the bicycle trails were just now happening. And at that time, I believe that we were one of 3 bicycle-friendly communities in all of Pennsylvania. After Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and then small little city of Franklin was one of the 3 bicycle-friendly communities in the whole state. Since we are a popular destination for cyclists, we've been nominated for trail contests throughout the eastern seaboard, and we have recently become one of the top destinations in the fall for a bicycle trail outside the state of Vermont. So we are getting, not only do we pull from our 3 metropolitan areas, but we're now drawing people from all over the country that come here just for the fall bicycle trails. I feel like I'm very fortunate that I have an outdoor passion with an entrepreneurial spirit, and being in Franklin here, it allows me the opportunity to share what we have with customers that aren't so fortunate. Not everybody has a French Creek and the Allegheny River and the bike trails and the hiking trails that we have. So it's really unique for me. It's because it's my passion, and I get to share that passion with cyclists, canoers, and kayakers, and more importantly, the small children that might not have that opportunity in their backyard. We can bring them here, and they can find all kinds of things for the kids to explore and do.
I'm Jill Rhodes. I'm the Executive Director of VARA, Venango Area Riding for the Handicapped Association. VARA was founded in 1980 by Dr. Louis Wagner to provide therapeutic horseback riding services for his daughter and other individuals in Venango County with disabilities. They provided therapeutic horseback riding using borrowed horses at the Venango Fairgrounds initially, and then they moved to the current site in 1995. We have different classes of therapeutic riding. We have classes for people with disabilities that help to improve their mental, physical, or social and behavioral capabilities. We also have a cart program for people that are unable to ride on a horse. VARA typically has about 200 riders a year, and they're referred to us from various sources. Sometimes it would be a pediatrician or other physician, sometimes physical therapists. I think our biggest referral source is word of mouth from parents and caregivers of riders that have been through the program. It typically takes about 1,400 volunteer hours for us to work with the riders in the classes. Community support is huge. Our fees cover only about 10% of our annual operating budget, so we need to depend on community generosity basically to keep the program going. VARA is a 48-acre site. We're located just about a mile north of Polk, Pennsylvania. We currently have 13 horses and an indoor and outdoor riding arena, classroom type setting, the basic riding facility. VARA would like to have one final building phase, which would be to add a new stable onto our existing indoor arena. That would eliminate the need of moving the horses from the barn to the arena during bad weather, and it would also provide more space so that we could house our old horses on site as long as they're able to be there. As the executive director, it's very gratifying to me to see the results that we achieve with horse-assisted activities. A lot of the time, this might be the only form of recreation that the person's able to participate in. Many of our riders are wheelchair-bound most of their waking hours, so it really gives them a sense of freedom and joy to be able to participate, and it's a really nice thing to see.
My name is Peter Green. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Franklin Silver Cornet Band. The band was first formed, as far as we know, in 1856. We're celebrating 161 years this year. It's one of the oldest traditional town bands in the country, and by traditional what we mean is that we're still, after all this time, all volunteers, folks from all walks of life, all ages. We have high school kids, we have middle school kids, we have retirees in their 80s all playing together in the band, and that's pretty much how it's always been over that time period. In the earliest days, back before the Civil War, we played what were called serenades. The band would set up on somebody's front yard, play a couple of songs, and hope they would get invited in for refreshments of one sort or another. We've always played parades, and for most of our history, we've played a traditional band concert in the park. There's a bandstand in downtown Franklin, and we set up there several nights of summer and play concerts for whoever wants to come sit on the grass. At this point, we play a lot of music of all types. We play arrangements of contemporary stuff, show tunes, compositions just for band, but we have a pretty deep library, so we have marches going way, way back, and a lot of other traditional band music as well. We have a lot of folks who are regular attenders and a lot of people who come to hear us. We have people who plan their vacations around our concerts in the summer so that they'll be sure to catch one while they're back home. We've done some special events over the years. When Ulysses S. Grant came to town, we played for him. We've played for other dignitaries who visited Franklin, and we've occasionally gone on the road. One of the things that was a big treat for us was the band went to Philadelphia in 1876 for the centennial celebration, and then in 1976 we went back to Philadelphia again, probably the only non-military unit to appear in Philly for both the centennial and bicentennial. And we've traveled to other places, the Henry Ford Museum and other places that invited us to come and play. It's a volunteer group, and we're always happy to take new members in. We've had people who join in high school and just stay for the rest of their lives, and we have people who haven't touched their instrument in 30 years and pick it up again and come and play with us. Anybody's welcome. Just like a town can be proud of old buildings and old institutions, we we go back, as I said, to back before the Civil War, there was a time from about 1880 to 1920 where every town, every little town in America had its own town band. And after World War I, lots of those were lost. In the 1950s, lots of those were lost. So we're part of a tradition that stretches back a long way, and we're something that's survived in Franklin where a lot of places don't still have this.
Hi, my name is Zachary Covington, and today I'd like to talk to you about the Franklin Rotary Club. The mission of the Franklin Rotary Club is service above self, and we have weekly meetings, and we spend our time trying to decide how we can better the community, whether that be supporting other nonprofits with monetary gifts or service projects, building restorations, things like that throughout the community. So the Franklin Rotary Club serves the community mostly by picking businesses that are in need or organizations that are in need of actual service projects, some of which might involve restoring a lot of the old Victorian buildings that are in town. We've done rooms and floors of old buildings. We adopt a highway, so we clean up a highway a few times a year. Pet waste service stations around town. We're very excited that we give away over $4,000 in scholarships to the 2 local school districts each year to graduating seniors, and we also support several juniors in the community to attend certain Rotary functions through the summer, leadership conferences, things like that. So the dictionary program is the club purchases dictionaries for second graders in the 2 school districts, and we go in and we present them to the students. We kind of make a big deal about the fact that it's their book, they get to keep it, they can write in it, they put their name in it right away, and they get really excited about, we even play games about, okay, who can find the certain word and things like that. They get very excited about that program. The Youth Exchange program is a Rotary International program, and so we have inbound and outbound students. This year we hosted a female student in the Franklin School District, and we just recently had an outbound student to Chile who just left to spend a year studying over there. And I would say that most years we have either an inbound or an outbound student. We're trying to improve those numbers. Each year we have supported the Child Development Center's Christmas party, and so there's certain grade levels that will attend, and we have lunch with them, we sing songs, we bring Santa Claus in. Each student gets a gift bag from Santa Claus, and where they get a set of pajamas and a toy that they get to take home. So that's a really exciting day during the Christmas season for us. Very excited about the impact that our club has had on the community through the years. The club is almost 100 years old in our local club, and we've done things like restoring the 3rd floor of the Bentz Music Museum. We've helped to fix up a conference room in the library, the local public library. They've done a total restoration of the Little Theater at the Barrow Civic Theater. And we're currently working on a facelift, so to speak, on the facade of the theater's big storage room, warehouse we call it, and several other projects such as that to help restore some of the buildings in the downtown area.
Okay, my name is Scotty Green. I'm going to tell you about the Bentz Antique Music World. I'm a volunteer executive director there. Jake and Elizabeth DeBentz were dairy farmers in the Grove City area, and they started collecting self-playing musical devices in the 1940s. As time went by, they found people were willing to pay to listen to the devices, so they got rid of the cows. Well, they kept adding to the collection, and in the early 1940s, Jake died, and Elizabeth was of an age where she didn't want to try to run the operation herself, so she decided to sell it. We formed a nonprofit corporation, and were able to raise just short of $1 million in about 8 months in order to purchase the collection. Then we took a mortgage on the old G.C. Murphy department store in downtown Franklin, and we opened there in 1994. We have the largest collection of self-playing musical devices in the continental United States that's open to the public. And if you come to see us, we actually play the music for you, as opposed to a lot of places where you can go and look at the machines, but you can't hear them. The Smithsonian is pretty sure we're crazy to be playing these machines. We have a lot of more or less standard antique music machines, but we have several that are one of a kind. We have the best merry-go-round organ that Wurlitzer ever built, but they only built one of them. We have a calliope built by the Artisan Works in North Tonawanda, New York, that's the only original one left. We have a Berrywood AOW built in 1913, which is the last one in the world that plays. We get a wide variety of visitors. We have kids that are less than teenage, and they dance in front of the machines. And we have a lot of older people that recognize some of the songs, and we always tell them there's no extra charge for singing along. So we get people singing along with the music. We have a free area in the basement. If you don't have time for a 1-hour tour, you can go down there and play machines for 25 cents each. As far as the Franklin community is concerned, about half the people don't even know we're here, and the other half very appreciative of what we're doing and preserving. We are in the middle of downtown, and we were one of the first steps in the restoration of a downtown area. Well, our visitors come from all over the world. We still are concentrated in the continental United States, although we have a lot of visitors from overseas. We have people who haven't ever seen machines like this, especially the fourth grade tour. We do a fourth grade tour for all the kids each year, and they're surprised at these things.
My name is Mary Ann Richardson, and I am the second vice chairman and the fundraising chair for the Barrow Civic Theater in Franklin, Pennsylvania. Franklin Civic Operetta Association had a board of directors, and I had the privilege of serving as chairman for 25 years. And we had done a mission statement, and our goal was to have our own theater. So after we did 1776 at the Venango County Courthouse in 1976 on the 200th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, we performed still at Franklin High School, the Franklin Club, Rocky Grove High School, wherever we could find a stage. Well, then in 1987, the former Caton Theater came up for a judicial tax sale. So I said to my board, our goal has always been to have our own theater. If we pass up this opportunity, it's never going to come again. And they said, we don't have any money. I said, I know that. We'll raise it. So Jerry Daniels and I went out and we raised $15,000. And with that in hand, we went to the tax sale at the Venango County Courthouse. And we were able to get the old Caton Theater for a bid of $6,700. And when I wrote the check, which included the back taxes, it was for $12,794, right under our $15,000 what we had. And so when I wrote the check, my hand was shaking so bad, I thought, what have we done? But we walked up Liberty Street to the building, and honest to God, I kicked the bricks and I said, Can you believe what we have done? This building is ours. Now we got to go to work because it had been just completely ruined. There were no seats and the roof leaked like a sieve. The board said, you know, we've got to plan a capital campaign here. We've got to raise the money to reconstruct this theater because it did have to be completely reconstructed. We started to plan a capital campaign to raise the money to reconstruct the theater. And then a miracle happened, and it was truly a miracle. I got a phone call from a good friend of mine who we used to sit at the kitchen table, her kitchen table, and talk, and she knew about our plans for the theater. She called me and she said, Mary Ann, I had a call from Charles Barrow. And I knew Charles Barrow because I worked for Joy Mining Machinery, and Charles Barrow was the vice president of sales for Joy. And he had been a Franklin resident. As a matter of fact, his son Tim and I went all through grade school together. So Lucille called me and she said, Charles has called me and he's getting up in years, and he had made a lot of money. And he said, I want to leave some of my money in Franklin because that's my hometown. And he asked her if she knew of anything where the money should go. She said, Mary Ann Richardson has a project. It's a theater project. And he said, you have her call me. And so I called Charles Barrow out in Phoenix, Arizona, and he said, I understand you've got a project. And I said, yes, I do. And I said, I think we've bitten off maybe more than we can chew right now. And he said, you tell me about it. So I did, and we had so many phone conversations back and forth. And I told him what we had done and what our goal was. And he said, you get yourself an architect and some building plans and cost estimate and send them out to me. So got all that together and mailed them out to Charles Barrow in Phoenix, Arizona. And so I waited and waited and waited and didn't hear. And then I got the phone call. And he said, Mary Ann, you can expect an envelope. He said, I mailed it to you at your home. And he said, you call me after you've received it. And so I did. I got the brown envelope in the mail, and in it was stocks and bonds valued at $1,750,000. And there we were. That was the estimate of what the reconstruction was going to cost us. And then we had so much support from the people of Franklin. They got behind us 100%. It was phenomenal. And to this day, they still support us with, it's just a wonderful, wonderful. After we got all this money and got the contractor started to work, and we opened the theater in 1993 with the production of 1776, because that was my idea, because I said, you know, the birth of a nation, the birth of a theater, it was just the right show to do. Next year we celebrate our 25 years in the Barrow Theater, and we have just been able to do fantastic productions. The people of Franklin and the whole northwestern oil region supports us They call the Barrow Theater the gem of the Northwest oil region.
Hi, I'm Rochelle Vroman, and today I'd like to talk about the community spirit here in Franklin. I bought a business in Franklin 10 years ago. It was Fox's Pizza Den. I commuted for a little while, and then probably about 7 years ago I moved to Franklin because I really like the people here. Right after I bought the business, it was fairly rough because I didn't know as much as I thought I did, and there wasn't as much money left over as I had intended. But a lot of people really helped motivate me and keep me going. We had the Chamber of Commerce. Lee worked there, and she did an interview with me. She did write-ups about the new businesses and what was going on, made sure I was informed. And then Ronnie Beath, who's our events coordinator in Franklin, she stopped in a lot just to see if I had questions and always made sure I knew when we had big events coming up so we would be ready for them and they wouldn't take us off guard. And then I had a very nice neighbor at Phillips Flowers, Bernie. She ate food sometimes, and I would actually go over to her shop and walk through the flowers and the nice little gardens because it was relaxing, so it was a nice break sometimes, and talk to her. She'd been in business quite a while. All of these local people really inspired me to try harder and make sure it worked because they all really cared about whether or not it worked. I was overwhelmed at first just by the number of people from the community that wanted to talk to me and get to know me and make sure we succeeded. I really felt like they wanted to make sure that I succeeded there. Franklin has a slogan. It's Franklin is always eventful. And that's true. I have never seen a town with so many events. There is almost always something going on. Usually it's in the parks downtown, which is nice. It's very close to my business. But so many people work hard on these events. Ronnie coordinates almost all of them. Tons of other people help. There's so many people in the community I've met that come together to make all these things happen. It's just very nice that our community can come together and help take care of anyone that needs it.
So my name is Jody Baker Lewis, and I am currently the Chamber of Commerce Director in Franklin. And I'm going to chat a little bit about Always Eventful Franklin. So the different events and Always Eventful. For 40 years, Franklin has worked together community-wide to make us an intriguing city, to make visitors want to come, and to make it welcoming to those who live here. So we have 5 festivals that the city of Franklin does. And those festivals are, the first one is in February, and it is Franklin on Ice, and it's amazing. We have ice sculptors that come to town, and they fill our fountain park with different sculptures that area businesses have sponsored. After Franklin on Ice, the next big festival that the city does is the 4th of July festivities, and it is 10 days of festivaling. We have concerts every night. We have a huge 4th of July parade on the Saturday before the fireworks, and on the 4th of July we have Thunder Over Franklin, which are our fireworks. And it's amazing, the people that come out and the people that stay home for 4th of July that would otherwise maybe go somewhere, and as well as those who come home. After the 4th of July comes Taste of Franklin, and that is our festival for foodies, and it is the first Sunday in August. We have different food vendors, restaurants, caterers, and such that fill our park, and you come in and buy tickets and you can sample all of their goodies. And that has grown over the last several years into a big event. After that is our Put Us on the Map festival, and that is Rockin' River Fest, the Pennsylvania stone skipping competition. And though it sounds like nothing big, we have hosted the 2 Guinness World Record holders. First was our Russ Byers, and Russ really put us on the map with stone skipping. The current champion is Kurt Steiner with 88 skips. Amazing. And these guys actually leave this festival and go to Mackinac in Michigan for the national competition. So in that festival, there's food, they do rock painting, they have all kinds of family stuff going on in the park for that whole day as well. And then the most beautiful night of the year is the Light Up Festival, and that is the Saturday before Thanksgiving. And the downtown is filled with sales and special music, and the band performs, and the high school choir sings, and we do carols, and we light up our trees. And that is the best parade ever. It's our longest parade. It's about an hour and a half. Every year it continues to grow. And then we have fireworks on the ground in our fountain park. Other groups have come on board with our events. We have May Garden Mart, the first weekend in May, all things lawn and garden. Franklin Blues and Barbecue is our newest event, and it is on Father's Day weekend, and it is just what it says, Blues and Barbecue. It is in Bandstand Park. We also have Duke Fest for our fur babies. And our biggest festival, which I'm in charge of, is Apple Fest. And that is the first Friday in October for 3 days. It's a great festival. Our downtown is always filled with sounds and all types of music. We have park concerts from June through August on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Our restaurants have music on Friday evenings outside on their patios. And so those activities, along with our trails and our waterways and our historic Victorian downtown, have just been home to many visitors through the last years. And again, like, the community comes together to make all this happen. You know, it's not just one person or one business or anything. We rely on the volunteers and the business sponsors and the people who just chip in and give so freely of their time and energy.
Hi, I'm Jim Williams, and today we're going to talk about Apple Fest here in Franklin. Apple Fest started in 1983, so this was our 35th year. Apple Fest started as a 2-hour apple pie baking contest, and a group of people in the Chamber of Commerce back then, I was not involved then, the Chamber of Commerce wanted to put together a local event, sort of as a community rallying, morale boosting, fun event, and somebody came up with the idea that there is some apple, actually the apple heritage around here. Johnny Appleseed supposedly came through here and planted seeds, and also there are some very large apple orchards in the area, not as many as there used to be. So that theme got turned into this apple pie baking contest, and winners were announced and the pies were auctioned off for charity, and that was it. It was a huge success, and so the next year it was a little bigger and some events were added, and pretty soon there were some crafters that were thrown in and some other food, and 35 years later it encompasses 3 days. We closed down Liberty Street on Saturday and Sunday that goes through the center of town for the festival's use. We now have 350 vendors that come to Apple Fest, and various crafts and artists and food. The car show the antique car show is on the city streets all through the downtown on Sunday, and we can park about 450 to 500 classic cars in our little downtown. And of course, every car that comes is coming with at least one person, sometimes 4 or 6, depending on how big the car is, that want to come to Apple Fest too. And that is we have been told that it is one of the nicest car shows around because it's non-judged. It's just basically a place to show off your antique car, come to a nice festival for a few hours. And we couldn't do that if the city of Franklin didn't allow us to close down Liberty Street and some other streets. And they have been very cooperative with us because of the benefit to the festival and the town. Apple Fest's real benefit is to the community as a whole, but specifically the business community gets a real shot in the arm at a time where it probably is a little slower time for retail, after summer, before Christmas. The local retailers obviously do a lot of business during Applefest because of all the people that are suddenly in town. So they run specials and sidewalk sales and lots of signage to attract people. The restaurants are full. The restaurants even put on more help, and so you can imagine if you're a college kid and you want to make a few bucks, all of the restaurants are, they put on waiters and waitresses just for the weekend. They make extra tips. It's good for them. The hotels are full all through the area. You can't get a room probably as far away as Butler. Nonprofit organizations are that's a whole nother story. The nonprofit organizations make a lot of money for their organizations, for their charities. Many of the nonprofits have vendor booths in the park, and the Boy Scouts sell hot dogs and bottled water, and I could go on, but much of the food that is sold in the park is sold by nonprofit organizations that raise money. We also have, we call it Nonprofit Row, which is just a row of tents and displays of various nonprofit organizations showing off what they do. They have it's basically an information booth, and for a very nominal fee, they can set up in Nonprofit Row. They have to, they have to reserve and be assigned the spot, because the spots all sell out, and they can run raffles out of their tent, and they staff it with their volunteers for information purposes. So it's a great way for nonprofits to get their word out. When the weather is nice, it is challenging to walk through Applefest and the sidewalks and the streets, and that's really what gives the nonprofit organizations their exposure. Is that the crowd moves slowly, people have time to look, and they can pick up brochures, and we really take a lot of pride that our local nonprofits really get a boost from the crowd in a way that they couldn't do on their own.
Hello, my name's Doug Baker, and I want to introduce you to Franklin's Light Up Night. Well, it started out as a small event that hardly anybody came to, and it's turned into one of our biggest events of the year. Right now it consists of a parade, and there's some performances by vocal artists, and then there's low-level fireworks that we do right in the park downtown after the parade. Light Up Night is sponsored by the city, the Franklin Fine Arts Council, but it's majorly staffed by volunteers. The parade is mostly people from around town, but the floats vary in size from garden tractors to tractor trailers. There's usually 5 to 10 tractor trailer size floats in the parade, and they're decorated in a Christmas theme. And the high school band participates, and they usually play some Christmas music. The parade starts at 13th and Liberty, and it proceeds through the 1200 and 1100 blocks of Liberty Street. Franklin's tagline is always eventful, so we have used special events as kind of an economic development tool. Every time we open up our community for an event, is an opportunity for us to highlight what we have to offer as a community. So it's important for everybody to participate, and we put our best foot forward and let people see what we have to offer here. One of the reasons that I really like Light Up Night is because it's one of the more local events. Like Applefest, we bring people from all over the place, but I do recognize a lot more faces at Light Up Night, so it's more local people. Some out-of-towners too, and we're happy to have them. It's changed a lot. When Light Up Night started, I was working at the police department, and we used to just escort a few cars around the block called it the Electric Lights Parade. And we decided one year that we were going to just close the street and have an actual parade. So we designed a detour route and everything for the parade, and we're setting it up. That was also the first year that we added the fireworks. So I was back in the lieutenant's office getting ready for the parade, and one of my officers, Kevin Lewis, came back and he says, "Lieutenant, have you looked down Liberty Street?" And I'm like, "No." So well, you might want to look. Well, I never did get a chance to, but I was driving the lead car, so I went out and got in a patrol car and got to the front of the parade and started down Liberty Street, and I'm looking around and realized that there are thousands of people lining the streets. So as soon as I got to the end of the parade route, I parked the patrol car and went and found Bill Beath, who worked for the city at the time, and what are we going to do with all these people? He said, "Well, that makes me feel real good." So I went back to my patrol car. I actually had to redesign the detour route that I was planning on using in order to accommodate the size of the crowd. But we managed to do that, and nobody noticed any difference. The fireworks were wonderful, and ever since then, it's been a pretty big event for us.
My name is Donna Fletcher, and I have been a resident of Franklin full-time since 1985 and part-time before that. I am currently a member of Franklin City Council and the Deputy Mayor of Franklin. I'm going to talk to you today and tell you about an event that I created. It came to me as an idea when I was watching America's Got Talent. And I thought Franklin had a perfect venue to bring everybody downtown to Franklin to enjoy our beautiful park, use the restaurants that are available to them. And so I took the idea for a Taste of Talent to Ronnie Beath, and who is the Franklin marketing coordinator, and told Ronnie what the idea was. And of course, that time it was just something similar to America's Got Talent. We formed a committee. We started meeting at lunchtime, and in its infancy, we had no idea when we were going to hold it, what it was going to be, and finally pared it down to the fact that something like America's Got Talent would take a bigger venue than what we had, so we decided on a vocal competition. And when we could have it was decided to coordinate with the Taste of Franklin, which is a sampling in the park of all the restaurant fare. So we decided that we would hold the event every Wednesday as an idea to bring people downtown, enjoy the restaurants, and come to the park. And that the semifinal would be the Saturday preceding the Taste of Franklin, and the final would be following the Taste of Franklin on Sunday afternoon. We are a number of volunteers, and that's what it takes to do something like this, is a large number of volunteers. And the volunteers pass out ballots. All the people come. There's no charge for this to anyone except the contestants. The contestants pay $25 to enter. And people come to the park, they're given a ballot, and they listen to each of the competitors sing their song, and at the end of the night, they place a number which corresponds to their favorite competitor on the ballot. The volunteers collect the ballots, and we go and we count the ballots, and then similar to American Idol, someone is eliminated that night. And this goes on until we pare down to 8 finalists. On the Saturday preceding the Taste of Franklin, the 8 finalists are pared down to 4. And on Sunday, the finalists each sing 2 songs, and the crowd determines who will be the winner of the Taste of Talent. The event began, the planning for it was like 7 or 8 years ago, and we've just finished our 8th year of Taste of Talent. It has grown immensely. The first time I can remember when the crowd was like 300 people, maybe, when we counted the votes. And Normally, we average about 1,100 people each night on the Taste of Talent. And the final count, I think, for the final night was like 1,300 people were in the park to see the event. Events like the Taste of Talent are important to the community because it brings a sense of pride to the community. It's something that people can become involved in.
My name is Ava West. I'm 13 years old. I go to Franklin Junior High, and I'm going to tell you my favorite parts about Franklin. I've lived in Franklin my whole life, and some of the things I like to do are cheerleading, playing the drums, performing in choir, and I'm going to start taking ukulele lessons at Porch Music Store. I like visiting all the stores downtown. They're just really fun to look around. Sometimes I buy some things there. Bossa Nova is a place I like to go. I like getting hot chocolate there and muffins. I don't really drink coffee yet, but there is a wide variety of different kinds of coffee. I like going to plays at the Barrow. Sometimes my mom plays the drum set in the pit, so we see her perform, and all the plays are really cool and just really good. And I've been in a couple. One of them that I've been in was Mary Poppins, and that was a really cool experience for me. Another place that I like to go, and I've liked to go since I was little, is the Scoop. And they have different kinds of hard ice cream there, and it's really good and it's a reasonable price, and it's just fun to go to in the summer if it's a hot day. And I also like to go to the library, and I have since I was younger, and I like doing my homework there after school and checking out some books. And I also I used to like playing in the children's room because there's toys and children's books, and there are also these tablets that you can play on, which is fun because there's different age groups of the games that are on the tablets. And in the children's room, there's this big mural of a bunch of animals and different scenes. I like babysitting some kids, and sometimes we go to DeBent's, which is a music store, and we like going downtown where you can put quarters into machines and play self-playing pianos and jukeboxes and other music things like that. They're all antiques, so that's really cool. And upstairs you can take tours, and I have before. I have with my school and when I was babysitting, so that was cool, and they just play a bunch of music for you, and it's just super fun. This summer, Franklin started Franklin PA Rocks, which is where you paint and hide rocks, and then you can find them all over Franklin, and this is all across the country. It's just a really trendy activity right now. And so I liked going down there with my dad and my dog and just finding rocks and re-hiding them and painting them at home. And it was just a fun activity to do in the summer. In the bandstand parks, they always have these concerts that are free to go to. And one of the big events is Taste of Talent, and it's just a singing competition. And me and my family sell ice cream there. So that's fun, and it's something to do. I love Franklin because it's a small town and there's so much to do, and it's just a lot of fun, and I think it's a great place to grow up, and I'm lucky to live here.
I've lived here personally since I was 12 years old here in the Franklin area, and certainly it's just been a wonderful place for us to raise our family, and we've enjoyed, as we've had tours through the years, the people from the Franklin area coming up and seeing this facility, and they've always been so gracious and supportive of the things that we're doing here. It's just been a wonderful place here.
I love being in this area for a number of reasons. One, Franklin has so much to do outdoor recreation with the biking trails. The downtown is just beautiful. I mean, they've done a really great job of upkeeping it and revitalizing it, making it relevant. The restaurants and the food is fantastic. They always have things to do. There's bands and just festivals. And I just love the small town feel, you know, like I said, where people come together and they always look out for you. And that's a place you want your kids to grow up in. So I'm glad to be part of the community.
I was born in Franklin and grew up in the Franklin area. It has been my home all my life. And I just think it's a unique community, and partly because I've been fortunate enough to be able to learn a lot about it and to always enjoy living here.
I'm prejudiced. I was born here. And I love history. So growing up from grade school through high school, especially in grade school, the emphasis was on local history, both in Franklin and also in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And given the nature of the community and the wealth that was here, and the finer homes and the bigger homes, it was literally like walking into an MGM movie set. It was strictly all American looking. And the people, I had school teachers in high school that were peers of my grandparents. So everyone knew one another for at least several generations. So that hominess and that all-Americanness that we are so proud of, I grew up in here. And I actually love it because I see the value of community, both family, the community at large, from churches to just civic and social interactions, was really a safe, wonderful place to grow up.
Well, Franklin's a great place to live. We felt when we came here in 1965 like we were stepping back in time, and that's not a bad thing. Now, the rest of the world has caught up with Franklin, but it's still a great place. It's a small town feel with a lot of the facilities that you won't find in most small towns.
I don't really have a favorite thing about Franklin. I just love everything about it, and it's my hometown, and I just love it so much.
I guess at a young age, when you live here, you kind of get to feel that there's salt of the earth people in Franklin, and then you move away, and then when you return, the community, it's amazing what we accomplish as a community. I mean, without the community leadership and the volunteers, we wouldn't have near the festivals, and there's always something going on in Franklin. If you want something to do, you can pretty much be assured that when you come to Franklin, there's something going on in our small community.
My favorite thing is that there's a lot of opportunities for arts, for performance, to make things happen that you want to see happen, and just the physical beauty of the place.
I love the beauty of downtown Franklin. I love the synergy that's happening, but I also love that when you walk down the street, somebody you don't know is going to say hello.
Oh, Franklin is a wonderful small town. It's very comfortable. People are very friendly, and even if you were away for decades, you come back, they know you, and you feel like you're home again.
I came to Franklin from being an assistant in a big church in a huge city, and now I am in charge of a small church in a small town. And the dichotomy is kind of amazing. I love the community, and I love being able to get to know people in a deeper level. And I just love sort of the collective understanding of having fun together. We, have festivals together, we have activities, and people know each other, and that's really helpful. For the first time in my life, I've been a regular somewhere, and people can greet me by name, and that's never happened in my life before. And so that's really sort of hitting my heart these days.
Franklin has got to be the most wonderful town on the earth. The people are great. If you need something in Franklin, all you have to do is ask.
I'm going to say mostly the people. Living here all my life, I've got a lot of friends in this town. I respect Oh, a lot of the people that are older than me and they're kind of influenced me all my life. And I'm also into hunting, fishing, and the outdoors, so Franklin offers seasonal changes that I like. Sometimes the winters drag on, but it's really good to experience seasonal change.
What I love about Franklin is the can-do spirit that I have seen in this town since I've been here. I've been here 35 years. Franklin and a lot of towns in the northeastern part of the country have taken a lot of economic shots, manufacturing, unemployment, and Franklin has not been immune to that. But this town survives with a spirit, a community spirit that is incredible. A very positive attitude.
And my favorite thing about this area is just the community feel. You know, it's a small town and everybody is just wonderful.
What I like about Franklin is that, well, first the people are so friendly, and I can still, to this day, walk down the street and I'll have 4 or 5 people say, "Hey, where you been? I haven't seen you for a while," you know, because so that's the kind of a town Franklin is. It's just homey and very pretty.
I love the events, the busyness, and just the friendly people. And walking down the street, you see someone, you don't even have to know them. They're gonna say hi, wave, you know, offer to help.
My favorite thing about Franklin, well, as an architect, I enjoy the architecture. I love the fact that has a wonderful downtown. There's lots of festivals. And if somebody says hi to you on the street, that's not a strange thing.
Everybody seems like they feel very much at home here. They're little neighborhoods, but when you see, like I talked about, these events that they have in Franklin, and it seems to me like the entire town shows up. That creates a sense of community that you don't get in a big city.
I grew up in Venango County and graduated from Franklin High School. And so I've been basically in the area my whole life. And I think my favorite thing about it is the sense of community that people exhibit. And that's the main thing that's kept our organization going for the past 37 years.
Everything is my favorite. The restaurants, you know, there's so much to do if I have friends in town or people call and say, what can I do, where can I go? It's just, it's wonderful to be able to have answers and to send people to various restaurants depending on what they want. And shopping is unique stores downtown. It's amazing.
I think what I love most about Franklin is that it's almost like putting and they say there's no I in team, but I think maybe Franklin might be an example where there is somehow an I in team, because we've got all of these individual businesses and everybody is encouraged to be unique and to do their own thing, but yet everybody works together. You know, whether it be the chamber events or the Arts Council events or festivals in the park. I think there's more festivals in Franklin than any other town in Pennsylvania, if you ask me, but it's wonderful. People come and I think it's just a way where everybody can share their uniqueness together.
I've been in this area since '71, specifically Franklin since 1985, and I really, really love the area. The people have such a sense of volunteerism. It like Hillary used to say, it takes a village, and it certainly does take a lot of people to put a lot of the things that we do in Franklin to make it a better environment for the people who live here, and hope that we can continue to grow and make it better.
Like I said, no matter what time of year it is, something's always going on, and you don't feel like a nameless face at these events. You can walk into a room, whether it be a chamber event or whether you're at Curb Market or Apple Fest or anything like that, and somebody recognizes you. And that may put some people off, because there's always small town I think that as long as you do a good job of staying out of that and, focus on the good things, there's so many good people here that care about this town and that have had families here and history here that go back generations like mine. And that's comforting.
I was born and raised in Franklin and had the opportunity when I worked for Joy Mining to had the offer they wanted me to go to Pittsburgh to work at the corporate office, and I said, no, I can't leave Franklin. I just couldn't. And I think my favorite thing is the people. Steve Kozak, who used to run the trust funds, we had a talk with him one day, and he said, or we asked him what the difference was. What's the difference between the other towns in our area? Why is Franklin so? He said, it's your people. And it is. It's the people that live here, and they're, they just love Franklin, and they support everything that we do.
Well, I'd kind of like to tell you a story, if I can. It's a little different. My grandmother was the youngest of 9 children, and she used to show me this photograph that had her entire family, and she was just a little girl, and she had nieces and nephews in the pictures, like 32 people in the picture. And when she showed me that, she was the only person in that picture who was still alive. And I said to her one day, geez, Grandma, how do you do it? And she says, well, you just keep going. And so when I look at Franklin, I think about the ups and downs that we've had over the years, and the resilience in this community, and how we keep reinventing ourselves. That's what I love about Franklin.
Our Town Stories from Franklin is brought to you in part by Franklin Animal Clinic, part of Franklin, Pennsylvania for over half a century and proud of the local community and the rich heritage and history that has built and shaped the area. The clinic offers a full-service medical and surgical facility for routine vaccinations, diagnosis and management of medical conditions and dental disease, as well as general and orthopedic surgery. Information's at 814-437-5768 or online at franklinanimalclinic.vet. Miller Park Bed and Breakfast. This mansion is located in the Miller Park neighborhood in historic Franklin, Pennsylvania. At the turn of the 20th century, during the Pennsylvania oil boom, mansions were built in this private hillside park overlooking the city. Today, visitors are invited to experience and enjoy the splendors of a bygone era and witness the rebirth and the restoration of this historic mansion. Preserving the atmosphere of a personal experience, the Miller Park Bed and Breakfast reserved accommodations welcome guests to a home away from home. More information's at 814-516-0789. And by viewers like you. Thank you.